All right, there we go. We are live, and I'm glad to see people jumping in already, which is cool. I just wanted to welcome everyone here. I am here today with Taylor Armstrong. Taylor and I have kind of connected through Twitter for the most part, but also have connected through Teacher Success School, right? I know that Taylor has done a presentation in there already, which is fantastic on SEL. And I would love to dive into your insight a little bit more here today on some different topics also. But before we jump in, Taylor, I just want you to introduce yourself to everyone so they know who you are, what you do, and what you're all about.
So my name is Taylor Armstrong, as you said. First off, I was jamming to that music. I just have to say that. Like I was sitting here dancing, and I'm like, man, this is good.
Yeah.
But Taylor Armstrong, I'm the Assistant Director of Technology for Vestavia Hills City Schools. I've kind of done a little bit of it all. Been, academic sport coordinator, technology, STEM, branding, communication, and started out as just a volunteer coach and kind of fell in love with what everything that education is about. And like, I've got to get my degrees and I've got to do this for the rest of my life. And finally got my degree and then got another one. And now I'd say smart or dumb enough to get another one. So, but that's kind of who I am. And that's what I'm doing right now.
Cool. And it sounds like you're pretty busy. I'll say that, so I appreciate you coming in today. I know that you'll see some comments pop up probably throughout the chat itself. This one is from, if you didn't notice this, I know that you are on with a lot of podcasts and you listen to some. So this is from the Che and Pav podcast. So you definitely know them. So I'm excited to have them in here as well. But I figure what we'll do today is we'll kind of get started chatting a little bit about what you had said to me earlier, finding direction. Like how do we find direction in these unprecedented times as teachers, as leaders, things like that. And I'd love to kind of dive right into that conversation with you. I know you have essentially 3 main areas that you're going to focus on today with a bunch of stuff underneath. But I guess what I'd ask you to start us off with would be, what would be your first strategy or piece of advice for leaders and educators, teachers in the classroom, teaching remotely? What would be your first piece of advice moving forward to find direction and be comfortable?
Well, and this actually isn't one of my core 3, but this is, to me, super important as far as when it comes to being a leader. You are no longer to be the subject matter expert. That is not your job. Okay. As being a leader, you're not the know-it-all. You're the enable-it-all person. Okay. So your know-it-alls, your subject matter experts are your teachers. They're the ones doing it every day in the classroom. They're supposed to be the experts. They are our resources, our wealth of knowledge. Our job is to enable them to do their job. Okay. And that's the biggest part of leadership that many people fail at, is they want to be, I got all the answers. I don't have all the answers, man. I'll tell you straight up, I don't know, but we can find out together. And I think that's such a key phrase that so many people forget, is it's okay to say, I don't know. You don't have to know everything to work at the board or to be a principal or to do whatever. You just have to be willing to find out. So it does go into my first principle, which is you have to center yourself. Okay. You have to know what you're good at, know what you're bad at. Surround yourself with those who are strong in your weaknesses, and then you can balance them out and you can learn together. And so through that, how you center yourself is you want to find things that you can reflect on. First off, have a hobby, have something that you can step away from. So it's not all about work, because when it's all about work, you forget what you're doing and you forget to refocus. So when you step away, all of a sudden you have those aha moments of, oh man, I didn't think about this and it just came to me. It's for me, mine is running. And I love to run, and I'll sit there and I'll run and I'll have all these thoughts in my head and it'll go and go. And then finally I'll get done and I'll be like, man, I've got to put this stuff down. I've got to get it out. And that's my recenter. I step away and I just let it all go. And then things just hit me and I'm like, okay, I've got this problem and this problem, this problem. And I got solutions because I stepped back and was able to recenter myself.
I love that, and I think I agree with you there. As a teacher myself, and I like what you said. In regards to the relationship between maybe like that building admin and the teachers, and to kind of really understand that. I agree with you. Even in the classroom as a teacher, when you had said it's okay to say, what, I don't know, I'm going to find that out. I find myself doing that quite a bit in the classroom with my students. I teach middle school, 6th grade. And there's tons of times when they will come to me and say, well, do you know anything about this? Or they'll ask me a question. And instead of what I used to do, to be honest with you, early on in my career, was I'd make something up. I'd act as if I knew the answer, and I would make it up with authority, right? So they believed me. What I realized was that was doing a lot more damage than good. And it's a very humble thing to say, what, I don't know. But I'm going to find that out. And then obviously the follow through, right? To find it out and then follow through and tell them that answer. So I like that. And I like that the whole centering yourself with running. I too am a runner.
Yeah.
I don't share it a lot. I like to run because it's my time it's almost like a very private time for me, right? So I don't run with people. I know that's very beneficial and it's great. But for me, I do it almost to kind of gather my thoughts, right? So, and sometimes I'll find myself running for 20 minutes and my mind is clear and it's great. And then other times I find myself, and when I'm done, I've run for an hour and a half and I'm thinking, wow, I can't believe I did that. But I was so much thinking going on. So for me, I agree with you. I kind of center myself in that way. I know for my wife, she basically centers herself in different ways, right? She likes to read. She likes to take the time to kind of center herself by doing things that are a little bit more relaxing, right? And I think that since we're all different, those things can really help in so many ways. So I love that because it's so important. And kind of like what Tara said here, self-care is essential to be able to support our teams. And I totally agree. Awesome. So
Yeah.
what would you say is would be another or your second piece of advice or strategy that we could use to really kind of find our direction moving forward?
So for me, my second step is really to find the where and the why. Okay. So a lot of people want to just move forward with let's get the newest device or let's get the newest this or whatever. And while that can be good, if we buy new devices just to have them, we've just bought expensive paperweights. If we buy new whatever, new textbooks, whatever, if it's not improving the instruction, why are we doing
Hmm.
this? So we need to find the where and the why. And Ed Site was one of my undergrads, and so it's super important to me how kids learn and how they develop. And so each kid is different, and they each have their own approach to things. And so we have to learn our kids, and it can be harder in what we're doing now because we don't have that physical time with them. It's harder to learn. So we have to know those tools that are going to at least let them open up and give them an option. And for me, a lot of those tools that I found that I just wanted to share uh, for anybody doing virtual, there's quite a few you can do, whether it's Google Meet or Zoom or do your breakout rooms or do a flip grid or even a goose chase activity, just that give them something to do something. I mean, we did that at new teacher orientation, just to hey, do this and have some fun, but you also get to know each other in the process, and building that connection allows you to see inside them and who they are. So the way they interact with each other, you can learn so much without ever having to say a word. You just sit back and watch how they interact with each other and what they do, and you can see which students need more support or which students are going to struggle in certain areas or excel in certain areas. And it allows you to tailor that instruction around them, and it allows you to actually go, okay, I can use this for Chuck, whereas Taylor's going to need this, and it gives me that space to really go, okay, I know what we need to do here. And the same thing with our staff. Spending time with them is so important, even if it's virtually, because with that, it allows us to have that springboard to really say, okay, I know where you are right now. And now I know why you're there. And when I know that where you are and why you're there, the how becomes really easy. So those two lead me to the how every time. And when you do that, it really makes a big difference. And my other thing is I have notes everywhere. So I'm a notes person. Like as soon as I think it, I write it down, whether it's on my phone or anywhere. But that's another thing we can do to connect to our students, to find out who they are. Little things we don't think about. send them a letter in the mail. We might not be able to, some of our kids might not have the money to do the internet. Let's send them a letter. Let's send them some not necessarily worksheets just for worksheets, right? Because even websites are just virtual worksheets if all they are is busy work.
Yeah.
Right. So let's do something that's going to encourage them, that's going to build them. Even if it's something small, like if you have little ones, let them have a coloring book. That's nothing, but it's something that encourages them. If it's bigger kids, just send them something small, whether it's candy or whatever, as long as it's approved by the parents. Get yourself a Google Voice phone number. You can call them, and you don't have to worry about them having your number. Little things that give you insight into them, allow you to connect to them. Those are things we can do to make that connection and find out that where and why, so that now we have the how to connect them to our curriculum.
Yeah, I like that. I think, and I think that you hit a lot of points on there as far as, the key here is essentially building that relationship that so you can know one another, right? Because once you know one another, you then can dive a little bit deeper, know how to get the how, right? Get to that how. I know for one thing that I did for my students with remote learning, everything was on Zoom and we use Google Classroom, and we're one-to-one and on all of this stuff, right? And you would think that's awesome. We're going to have a lot of attendance and everyone's going to be showing up. And, just like everyone else when we were doing that, it was very difficult to connect with the kids. And what I personally did, and a couple other teachers that I work with, we would send individual videos to the kids via email, right? So I love the option of sending, postcards and things like that. I think that tangible mail, there's something that everyone loves about getting mail, right? But what I did was I basically would send to all of my students a personal video where it went to their email, and I have a software that I used, but you can do it, through, some people did it just through a YouTube unlisted. So they sent them the link, and, it just was me saying, hey, I'm so proud of you for these specific reasons. And I would give them specific things about themselves that I had learned because I built that relationship. And it was very interesting. After that, what I found was the attendance and the engagement, everything all of a sudden started to increase, right? Because I think a lot of times, whether we're leaders in the school, leading teachers, or we're leading the kids that we teach, I think that a lot of times it often takes the first step to be the one where we reach out, letting them know that they matter, letting them know that we notice them, and letting them know that they're important. And then all of a sudden, the floodgates can open, right? So I love that. It's finding the where, the why, and then that how kind of comes naturally. So that was cool.
Sure. And you can even do things like student features. You could, feature a student each week in your classroom. You could still have classroom leaders. You could still do that and let them, do the attendance at the beginning of class. Little things that let them be in charge. Because like you said, when you show them you're invested, when you give them that feedback, then all of a sudden the interaction turns way up.
Yeah, it's really, really something to see. And I like what you said, giving them the reins, so to speak, to kind of take charge. Before we move to the next point, I have to give a shout out to one of my kids. I won't say her name because nobody knows who she is, but she was one of my sixth graders last year. She's now in seventh grade, and she had reached out to me and said, "Hey, I want to continue, continue sixth grade our class, right? And I want to continue encouraging them." And I said, "Sure, that's fine." And what I found to be very interesting, because I find a lot of entrepreneurs and business people, even educators looking to get into business, they're trying to build ways to build rapport with their customers, so to speak, or they're building rapport with people. She actually built an entire email list where every single day she sends out an inspiring quote and her reflection on that quote. And they're very short, but this is a 12-year-old, and she's stayed consistent through the whole entire summer. And it's kind of blown me away that she took the reins and has inspired me to do things like that, right? So it's cool when you give kids the opportunity to do things, they often end up inspiring us to be better ourselves, right? So I think that's awesome. So what would be, so far we've talked about centering ourselves. We've talked about finding the where and the why. what would be your third thing that you'd kind of give us as advice, strategies, insight into moving forward?
Well, my third thing, and this has been one of my biggest downfalls for the beginning part of my career, was worrying about getting it done, worrying about speed. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So speed should be your last worry. Okay. So there's a reason we have speed limits, right? They don't want us to go too fast. If we go too fast, we get dangerous, we can cause car wrecks, we can do all these things. So I tell people, you need to go at a speed like you're driving through a school zone, because that's what you are. You're in a school zone.
Uh-huh.
You need to slow way down. All right. And it's okay if somebody's already got it and they're like, okay, I got this, whatever. You're just reinforcing it at that point, because those that don't have it are still learning it. So we can still reinforce while others are learning without leaving anybody behind. But if we go, okay, you've got it, let's move on, we've already left everybody else behind and we're already disjointed. So for me, taking your time is huge, especially when you talk about virtual. You've got to connect. You've got to look. I tell people all the time, there is a huge reason why social, emotional come before learning in that phrase. If you don't fix the first two, you'll never get to the last one. It's just not going to happen. So we have to meet that social, emotional. We have to connect. So we have to slow down and take our time and learn each other. And when we do, what we do reflects it. The grades will reflect it. The interactions will reflect it. All the support will reflect it. This is not a 100-meter sprint. This is like 2 marathons put together. That's what we do every year. Each semester is a marathon. And it's just part of it. You've got to take it mile by mile, foot by foot, inch by inch, and just know that it doesn't matter whether you ran a mile today or whether you move forward a foot. Progress is progress. And as long as we're taking those next steps with our students and our staff, that's the most important. We just need to keep moving forward as our staff and students allow us. Okay. So that means if we have to move slower in one class than we do in another one, that's okay, because we're meeting that class's needs. And as leaders, we have to understand that each one of our classrooms is different. We can't just set a standard and go, boom, this is what we're doing. Yes, we want to meet that standard. That's great. But if you meet it in 4 weeks and another class meets it in 6, that's okay, because we're meeting it and we're making sure that everybody crosses the finish line together. And that's where the magic happens, that we don't leave anybody behind, that we took our time and we went together, because then along the way, we're not only making sure they achieve, but when we do it together, we're making that group success that binds them and helps carry to the next chapter and the next chapter, and it allows us to grow on top of that.
Yeah, I think that's such a great point to pause. And I know Tara said be intentional about pausing, right? I think pausing, slowing down is I think crucial. And I think the reason why, and you could tell me if you agree, the reason why I think so many of us, whether we're teachers or we're in leadership or we're as an admin or we're doing something else in education, I think one reason why we tend to fear slowing down is because it can become uncomfortable, right? I mean, it's we know that we have to, as a teacher, I know, okay, well, I'm told you have to complete this much of the curriculum by the end of the year. You have to make sure that they are up to this standard, and they need to be. I teach language arts, right? So we have our expectations or our benchmarks. They should be at this reading level by this time, and you have all of this thing. And I think the issue becomes that fear of, okay, if I slow down, they're not going to get there, right? And if I pause, things are going to just never get where I'm supposed to be. And I think a lot of times, like you said, it's often when we slow down that will help us get to where we're going, right? If the speed up thing, the problem with speeding up and not slowing down is kids get left behind, and then what do you do? I think it's such an important thing. I know just on the summit last year, we had a speaker, his name's Ryan Foland, and he talked about the power of pause, right? And he was talking about it just with conversations where the strongest communicators will literally ask a question and then take a minute and pause, and almost to where it's uncomfortable to allow the other person to gather their thoughts and respond, right? Because scientifically or statistically, I forget how he said it, there is a specific amount of time that seems uncomfortable to us that people need in order to process before they can answer. And oftentimes we don't allow that, right? And I think the same thing works with teaching. It's kind of, if we don't, as teachers, it's we'll pause for a little bit, and then we just have to keep going because, oh, everyone must have it. And it's that slowing down process that allows our students and allows everyone we lead to gather their thoughts, process them, and then come back with something that they've learned. So I love it.
Yeah, and we've been overrun with standards and testing, which makes it hard because, oh, we got to make this benchmark, and then we got to get this one and this one and this one. And what happens is we rush through stuff, and then we leave one kid here and one kid here, and then they never catch up and they never come together. And it's just like having a car that's overheating. You could push through, but eventually it's going to break down, right? If we just stop, let it cool down, fix what's broken, then at the end of the day, we'll get there a whole lot faster than if we just tried to push through and get over there. So that's part of it's scary, I know, because all the pressure it's put on it. But me as a leader, it's my job to go, how can I help you get there? How can I make this faster or better or whatever for you? That's part of my job, not just to sit in the office and go, all right, I gave you stuff, good luck. Like that's not my job. My job is to go, where can I help you to cut something out or to make something shorter or whatever that allows you to get where you need to go and allows your class to succeed.
Exactly. I love it. And to kind of use your, and I've seen your journey over the years as well on Twitter with running and things like that. And I'm sure that you would kind of attest to this, but I found in my journey with running and kind of how it relates to this, I've always wanted to go fast, right? And I realized that the only way I could actually end up going faster is if I slowed down, right? So, you know, there's no way that I would be able to run, for instance, an 8-minute mile if I started running an 8-minute mile. It has to be slow, right? It's that slow process. And, you know, I like that, like what you said, in order to go fast, we have to go slow, right? So it's a very interesting concept that seems to contradict itself, but in the end, it's probably the most powerful thing we can do for our kids. So
it's just like running intervals. When I do my long runs, I do intervals. So I run 3 minutes and I walk 1 minute, and I just do that over and over again. But I've found when I do like a half marathon, I do it faster by doing intervals than if I just ran the whole way. Because if I ran the whole way, I'm wearing my body out. But if I take those intervals, I get a chance to rest and re-energize. And it's the same thing in our classrooms. We're taking that pause to re-energize and go, okay, let me slow down and see what I need to adjust for my next interval.
Yeah, love it. Cool. Well, okay, so I just want to break down your 3 main points, and then I'll give you an opportunity if you wanted to share any last minute wisdom or insights. But I know that so far we've talked about centering ourselves, right? So in order for us to move forward successfully, we want to be able to center ourselves and find those things that help bring us back to center, right? For you and I, it's running, right? But for other people, it might be something totally different. Then you had said to find the where and the why, whether we're interacting with the teachers that we lead, the students that we lead, but find that where and the why, and it'll often lead to the how, right? So it's all about building that relationship first type mentality. And then speed should be your last word. We should slow down, right? So I love those big concepts because I think, as I think Mark is saying here, it's so important now more than ever to move slow and connect with everyone, right? I think that is so on point and so true because, you know, in this unprecedented time, in times that are a little bit unknown, it's so important to slow down and really make that connection, because moving fast will not do us any good. So, so with that, are there any, I guess you could say, any last bits of advice that you want to share? And then, of course, share with us how we could connect with you or follow or find you online or in social or anything like that.
Sure. I first want to say for everyone, and I'm not the originator of this, I'm just borrowing it. So, but understand that everybody's a first year everything this year. Nobody's done this before. I did not come up with this phrase. I'm just using it because it is an amazing thought. This is new to everyone. So don't be scared to ask questions. Second, don't be scared to ask for help. There's people waiting for you to ask for help so they can help you. It doesn't mean you're weak. It means you're strong enough to know that you need to find the answers for your students and for yourself. And then thirdly, if you want help and you just don't know where to look to, ask me. I will either help you or I'll point you in the right direction to somebody who can. because we know tons of people that are more than willing to help and just want you to be able to do the right thing. And then as far as following me, I'm on Twitter at Taylor_does_it. And then I'm on Instagram at B_the_compass. And that's just kind of a model of who I live by. Same thing we're doing here. Be the direction in your own and other people's lives, because we can't move forward until we know where we're going.
Cool. Love it. So I just want to, again, Taylor, say thank you so much for your time, for your insight. I know that there's been a lot of people on commenting and just in the background listening. And I know that if people are listening to the replay, I'm sure they're going to rewind and kind of take notes on some different things. So thank you so much for taking the time to kind of chat with us today. And I know that I'll see you around. I know you are in the group, in the Teacher Success Lounge. So I know that you're in here for people that could contact you. But for those people watching on YouTube, hopefully they'll be able to reach out on Twitter or Instagram and pick your brain if they have any questions. Cool. So I just want to say thanks again for being here, and I hope to see everybody soon.
Thank you.